Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Muni Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 3.17. Now in this particular Yoga Sutra, Muni Patanjali is helping us to understand how sounds, words and sentences fall into the realm of Sanyam, and how by understanding these, one can actually gain the knowledge of all sound systems and languages. So let's get a good insight into the sutra, break it up word by word, and start understanding it even further. Now I have to tell you, this is a particularly long sutra, so we're going to go slow, try and break it up. Instead of chanting it, we're just going to pronounce each of the words and then go deeper into its understanding. So the sutra itself goes, Shabdartha pratyayana mitaretara ध्यासात संकरस्तात प्रविभाग संयमात सर्वभूत रुतज्ञानम. Alright, so as you can see, I've just tried to pronounce the sutra for you instead of chanting it in the tonality that it goes in. So this is just to get you familiar with the sounds, what they sound like, and then take you through the meanings of the words. We are going to make another video in the future where we will chant each of the sutras that has a completely different pace and tonality of the words, but right now we're just focusing on the meanings. So now let's start breaking it up word by word and trying to understand it a little bit better. The first word that we have here is Shabda. Shabda refers to a word. It's a very commonly used Hindi word as well. When we say Shabda, we always mean a word. Then coming to the next word here, we have Artha. Artha refers to the meaning. This word has come many times across the Yoga Sutras and essentially refers to the meaning behind a particular word. So Shabdartha has come as the compound word here, meaning the word and its meaning. Then coming to the next word, which is Pratyaya, another common word which has come several times in the Yoga Sutras. It refers to the experience of the Chitta or the content of the Chitta. And then we come to the next word, Itaretara or Itaretara, which is referring essentially to upon one another. So Itaratra means around, and Itaretara also is referring to something in and around and upon one another in this particular case. Then coming to the next word, there is Adhyasa, which is referring to a false superimposition. Now this basically means that we have used an erroneous assumption to superimpose a different conclusion or working conclusion on top of it, because of which we're making certain errors or mistakes. So we're going to look at in the sutra what these errors or mistakes are, but for now it essentially is pointing towards a superimposition of some kind. Then coming to the next word, which is talking about Sankar. This is particularly referring to some haphazard mixing or grouping which is leading to a certain type of confusion. So therefore it's it's kind of just saying that this is confusing. This grouping is leading to a certain misconception for us. Then coming to the next word, it's Tat. Tat is referring to of that, for that, of those. And then the next word is Pravibhaga, which means the complete separation or distinction. Bhaga anyway means a particular part. So Pravibhaga refers to complete separation or distinction. Then coming to the next word, it is Sanyam. Sanyam has come throughout the third chapter so far, referencing Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi all together. And then Sarva is the next word, which refers to all. And finally, the word after that is Bhuta, which refers to all living creatures, the Bhutas. And finally, the next word here is Ruta or Ruta, which means the sound or the language that particular creatures make. And the last word here is Gyan or Nyan, which refers to knowledge. So now, let's try to understand what this very long sutra is trying to tell us in short, and then we'll dive into it even deeper. So in short, what it's saying is that there is sort of a superimposition or a misidentification between certain words, certain sounds, and their meanings. And everything gets mixed up because of sound, word, and meaning. And that mixture kind of causes a deep amount of confusion. And because of this confusion, we're not able to understand the essence of the sound itself, because we have deeply associated it with a meaning. So now what is being said here is, through doing sanyam on the separation, on the distinction between all these three, which have been mixed together haphazardly. So if we meditate upon the separation, on just the sound itself, separating it from the word and the meaning, we will then gain the knowledge of the language of the creature or the sound that we're trying to focus on. Alright, so that is what the sutra is saying in short. But now let's dive into it even further and try to understand what it's communicating. Alright, so we understood so far the overall meaning of the sutra, and now let's try and understand how does one gain the knowledge of the sound of a particular creature just by concentrating on the separation of its sound, word, and meaning. So this is really unique and interesting because Muni Patanjali is trying to indicate that every sound, each and every sound, whether made by a human or an animal, has an essence or a particular language of its own. The only thing is, we as humans have given each and every sound, we've converted into a word, and that word has been further converted into having certain meanings. And these meanings differ from all human language to human language, all cultural contexts. They're entirely based on, what the norm is for us, how we understand language, the study of linguistics and sound. So it's a very detailed study, and that's why each of us has, different national languages, an international language like English, and of course many sub-regional languages as well. And each of these words has their own meaning, their own sound, their own components. But now what Muni Patanjali is saying is that if we want to go beyond just these, sounds and their arbitrary meanings that we have only assigned, if we want to go beyond that, then we need to pay attention to the, causality, the quality of the sound itself. So what does this mean? Now, many times, if you're trying to communicate with someone, let's say another human, who doesn't speak the same language as you, still you're somehow able to understand them, understand their emotions, understand their sounds, understand what they're trying to say. Maybe they'll start making gestures, and maybe they'll start making certain sounds that will help you to understand what they're trying to tell you. So it goes to show that just, sound itself carries such a deep message. If I'm joyful, I'll make a certain sound, and just by default, we'll know what that means, So there's this deep understanding of the language of sound itself and really what all it can offer us. And that's why Muni Patanjali here is pointing out that similar to that, we can tap into the knowledge of the sound itself by separating it from the meanings and the words that it's associated with. Then going a couple of steps further, he also indicates that this can help us to gain the knowledge of all languages, all sounds across the spectrum. But of course, this is a very, much later in the process, much later in the journey. But coming back to our example of another human, we can also take the example of an animal. So a pet or an animal that we have will also display sort of similar behavior. And if any of you have dogs or cats, you'll know that even though you cannot verbally communicate with them in a language, still you'll know exactly what they need by the certain sound that they make. So it's not that you guys speak the same language, but there's this inherent understanding that sound has that we are able to comprehend and even react to. And so that's why these days we also see a lot of people who live in the wilderness or who live with a certain species of animals, and they're able to decipher and decode their language because they pick up their traits, their characteristics, and they're sort of able to tell you what these animals or species are trying to communicate, even if they don't understand the language per se, they understand the language of sound. And so what is being said here is that this is a vibhuti that a yoga sadhak develops over time by concentrating and meditating on, the sound itself and separating it from its haphazard mixture of words and meanings. And by really doing sanyam on that for a long period of time, one can gain clarity and understanding of sound and the language of sound itself. So this is what Muni Patanjali is trying to communicate. Once again, I understand this may be very hard to accept at the forefront, may be hard to understand this entirely, but let's keep our eyes open, let's keep the mind open, let's just take it as it comes, one sutra at a time, and sort of just respect the teachings, respect the academic process of understanding it, and take it from there, instead of trying to see whether we have come across people like that or whether this is really possible. Because I think those are answers that we're all searching for, but it takes time, and the best we can do is just work with the grammar, just work with the words we have been given and try to decipher those. So I hope that this was a helpful video for you. If it was, please don't forget to leave your comments in the comments box below. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel because we release new videos every week. If you enjoyed it, do share it with your friends and family as well, especially those studying yoga philosophy or the Yoga Sutras. Now, we look forward to seeing you in the next video or in the next class or workshop. So until then, take care, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Namaste.